So what I'm going to show you today is how simple it is using our dog nutrition course, same goes for the cat nutrition course, how to prepare your own dog food and cat food. Today I'm going to be doing dog food. I have got here printed out from the course, I've got the list of ingredients of the do's and don'ts, and obviously I know these pretty well. But this is really useful for you to pin up in your kitchen whilst you're learning all this, because you can see you've got first choice, second choice, third choice, avoid. And it goes through the different meats and the different vegetables, etc. that you can do. So basically anything on the first choice or second choice you can basically choose. And bulk means that you can use that as much as you want. There's a but with that, I'm going to come on to that. And limited means only use in limited amounts. So this recipe, this ingredients list is really useful for beginners if you're thinking, what can I put in? And then as you get more experienced, you won't need to refer to that too often because you'll know it. The next thing you get in the course is the recipe list, and this gives you a really basic breakdown of some example recipes of what you're aiming for your dog. Doesn't it, Lola? You am I a bit slow? She's desperately waiting, bless her. So it gives you an example of the animal-based composition examples. So for a typical dog, we're looking for 80 to 90% of their daily food ration to be animal products, meat, basically. But it is important, as you'll see in the course, what type of meat and what body parts you use. And then you're using up to 10, maximum of 20%, depending on the dog, of plant matter. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to do a recipe using beef and chicken, beef meat in terms of beef flesh meat, muscle meat. Then I'm actually going to be mixing it because I know my dogs are okay mixing two different protein sources, some dogs aren't, but I'm going to be mixing it with chicken liver, organic chicken liver and organic chicken heart. And then I'm going to show you the vegetable matter that I've got. Now before I start mixing it up for you, in terms of the feeding guides, in the course you've got the feeding guides. So Lola here, you weigh about 19 kilos, don't you, Lola? And on the chart, it will say, my dogs are fed once per day. It will say for a 16 to 20 kilogram dog, we'll be feeding between 736 and 920 grams. But we are in the middle of summer at the moment. Now, I don't know about you folks, but I have never weighed my food in my life. So when we're looking at the feeding amounts, they are an indication, and that will depend on the quality of your ingredients. For example, the meat you'll see I've got here is very low fat. It will also depend on the amount of exercise your dogs get. Lola and Indy get a lot of exercise, they're very fit dogs. But also it's summertime, so they're not wearing off extra energy to keep themselves warm, for example. So at the moment, my dogs are having about 500 to 550 grams of food once per day. They do get some snacks out on the walk for recall training and things. But so when you're looking at these guides, please use common sense for how much you're feeding them. If your dog's putting on too much weight, cut it down. If they're using a lot of energy or they need to gain weight, increase it. So my dogs are fed once a day, late afternoon, typically early evening, after they've had their main walk of the day so that they can then relax and let their body process it. So what I'm going to do now is put Lola and Indy's recipe together, and I'm using this as a guideline, folks. So I'm going to aim for a recipe where we have got 60% of the flesh meat, 10% of kidney or heart, so I'm going to be using heart today, and 10% liver. That's going to take me up to, I'm actually going to use 70%, so I'm going to take it up to 90% of meat. And then I'm going to show you how I add my vegetable matter and my supplements. So simple as anything, I've got my scales here. I'm going to add my feet. So this is previously frozen meat. Previously frozen meat. So because they're having 500 grams, I'm going to basically make it up to 90% with the meat. So 500 grams, I'm going to have about 70% of the meat. So that's going to be about 300 grams of the flesh meat. You do not need to be exact. Now, when we're doing this, it's a bit like learning to drive the car. When you're first learning, you're going to be quite pedantic about the quantities and seeing what suits your dog. But once you've actually got the hang of it, you're going to be less fussy and you'll just go with the flow. So I've got my muscle meat in here. Now I'm going to go for my heart. So I have got organic chicken hearts, and my dogs don't like the texture of the heart. So I have got this down to a fine art. I've pierced it with a fork. Again, these chicken hearts are lovely organic chicken hearts. If you're in the UK, I get mine from Abel and Cole on delivery because they can be quite hard to get hold of. And you see, because my dogs don't like the hearts in big lumps, so I'm cutting these up to... Are you eagerly watching, Lola? Now, Lola and Indy, funny enough, are not as keen on the heart as some of the other dogs are. So I tend to add a little bit less than 10%. And you can see here one I prepared for earlier. So what I do is I freeze mine. They're raw. I freeze them for 3 days to kill off any potential harmful bacteria. And then each day I get one out of the freezer. So this frozen one I've just got out now will be ready for tomorrow for the dogs. Then I've got my liver. Silence of the Lambs, this reminds me of. I'm a vegan, don't give me excuses all you vegans. So I'm going to add in that. Now can you see what I'm doing is I'm adding it onto the scale. So 10% of 500 grams for liver is about 50 grams. I don't need to be exact, so I'm totting it up as I go, adding about 50 grams of liver, about 50 grams of heart, about 400 grams of the meat, and then I'm going to add the vegetable matter and supplement that. Again, my dogs don't like the chunks of liver. Funny enough, the cats do, but the dogs don't. So this is where you want to experiment with the texture of your meal, cutting it up. I'm going to add a little bit more of the breast meat. So I have got nearly up to my 500 grams. Now, again, this time I've got chunks of meat. So I've got 500 grams and now I've got 400 grams approximately of the meat. I've got 50 grams of the heart, 50 grams of the liver about. So that's a nice mixture in there. I'm going to pour that in to Lola's bowl. I'll do Linda's afterwards. Now for the vegetable matter. So what I do for the vegetable matter is I love using my NutriBullet. You've got a list on your ingredients list of what to add, and I try and vary this. My Lola and Indy don't particularly like fruit, whereas Star, my black lab, used to love fruit. So go for your dog's preference. So, kale from the garden. I have got, it's not on your list, but I love it, some freshly grown nettles. So I'm very lucky, all this is from my garden. So I've got some nettles, some kale, some beet tops, and some parsley. I'm not measuring out, I'm using about 10%. So if you were doing it by weight, but we all know vegetables are very light, so we're doing it by volume. So you'll see I'm going to have about 10% of the meal as vegetable matter. I'm putting it in my NutriBullet. I'm adding a little bit from my lovely structured water, just enough so it's not going to block up the NutriBullet. Ooh, where am I? Where have they put the NutriBullet bits? Lola, here we go. Then I'm going to whiz it up. Now, some dogs just like it chopped. If you're using nettles, obviously there's stings, so you'd need to either blanch them in hot water or puree them to make sure the sting's gone. Nettles isn't on the list, but everyone knows how much I love nettles. I'll do a separate one on that. And then I'm going to whiz it in my NutriBullet, just because my dogs personally don't like the chunks. Some dogs are quite happy with the vegetables just chopped. Whiz it up into mix. Then I'm going to pour that onto the side. Now I prefer with my dogs to pour it onto the side. I always make such a mess. This is why I couldn't be on a TV programme. I prefer to put it on the side because I like seeing what my dogs like. This is like torture for you, isn't it? And then on top of that, I am adding, I like chia seeds. Fantastic, you'll find out in the course why. So I'm sprinkling a little bit of chia seeds Do you see I'm not being exact about the quantities? I've obviously done this quite a few times before. My Ascent Nutrition algae oil, absolutely essential for healthy omega oils. And I add to each of their meals 10 drops of the Roots Clean Slate, because we all know about the environmental toxins. Simple as that. You can mix it up. I normally mix it up because Lola's not as keen on the liver, funny enough. And let's see what Lola thinks. Here we go, Lola. There we go. Lovely home prepared dinner for her. Really full of goodness. Today we've got the chunks. Sometimes I do use mincemeat. Varying the texture, varying in the ingredients. So tomorrow she'll have a chicken-based meal with different vegetables, and you can actually obviously pre-prepare these and put them in the freezer, which I'll show you another day to bring them out. Hope you like that.